Is the unnamed tavern named unnamed tavern? Is unnamed tavern named unnamed tavern, or is it a tavern that's not been named?
Political.
Wow.
Political. House expels GOP representative George Santos over ethics
Oh boy.
violations.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Oh,
Sorry.
Landon's cheersing
George
to that.
Anthony. George Anthony DeVolder Santos. We can't forget any of his names. George Anthony
Okay.
DeVolder
Oh.
Santos. Come on, give him his full
A
title.
person. So this shows that GOP does have its limits, and in particular that Santos was a marketing problem.
Which is good news.
For the GOP.
Right? Good news, everyone! The GOP still
Yeah,
has some standards left.
If you had told me a year ago that they expel anyone from any body who was going to caucus with them, I'd have been
Yeah.
like, I don't know about that. That seems pretty unlikely. Although to be fair in a bad direction, the House leadership, including the Speaker of the House, did try to get the rest of the GOP to vote to keep him, and he did not get the majority of the GOP, or like a big, like super majority of the GOP voting to have him leave. Right? There were a whole bunch
Yeah.
of no votes on the motion to expel that were from Republicans.
Yeah,
It
if you look
wasn't
at
enough
this,
to
it
save
says,
him.
yeah, the House voted on Friday to expel indicted New York GOP representative George Anthony something or another Santos over ethics violations, making him only the sixth lawmaker to ever be ousted from the chamber. The resolution passed 311 to 114, with 105 Republicans voting in favor of expulsion. All four top House GOP leaders voted to keep Santos in Congress.
So part of the thing about understanding that some of the GOP feared is that they had a very narrow margin, where essentially a lead of four, so five Republicans could essentially gum up the higher works, and they were concerned about reducing that down to three if they expelled Santos. And so there was a number of Republicans, again, knowing this guy was a schmuck, striking schmuck at a high level. They
So that's
chose,
number 5 on
instead
the
of
list.
just instead of condemning what he did, say for the party unity we have to keep him around.
Right.
Now I understand you from my former the former Congress member when I lived in California. Her comment was that Santos was known in the GOP of burning everyone, right? That he was not to be trusted. He would violate trust. He would violate all sorts of things. The Republicans didn't like him. But again, this is the notion of, because the margin of victory is so small, you can't chuck out the idiots and the wackos, right? They have to, and I'm amazed that it happened.
Yeah, same.
But I think the problem is that
so.
if my Congress members' comments are there, Santos was burning lots of Republicans
Yes.
inside, and people didn't like it.
So I think I know
What
what the
was
deal is with
happening-
George Santos. Oh, sorry.
So yeah, with Santos, it was like there were a lot of things. First, of course, like his weaseling around his background and stuff that was there, but then afterwards, it was being discovered that he has like 3 firms or some companies, and he was I think so, putting those forward to his, like, I don't know, the people of where he is the governor and whatever. So, but in the end, he has been charged with 13 I think so, 13 federal charges, and I think so that is also, and one of them is, if I'm not wrong, where is it? 2 counts of making materially false statements to the Federal Election Commission and conspiracy to commit offenses against the United States. So yeah, it's a lot in the background. A lot has been going on. Yeah, go Dapper.
So I just want to say, I think I know what the deal is with Santos. I think I know how this happened, how he got to be the way he is. So one day he was in his native land of Brazil doing a drag show. Which, hey, have fun, do a drag show. But he saw
why
a
not?
sign or something like that said, "Be gay, do crimes." And he was like, well, I've got the first part
Oh.
down. What if I just go all in on the second part? And that's just
no.
how it happened. Be gay, do crimes. He's the world champion.
Oh, no.
Although there are those
Yes.
rumors that he's been using campaign funds to pay for various women's OnlyFans.
Yes.
So, you know.
Yes, he has been.
And the thing is that
He's been transferring them in his personal accounts. Yeah.
Look, you can
So,
do
right.
the whole like be by do crimes. That's fine. That
Well,
works too.
yeah, Santos, was essentially
I think so.
a
What
political
was?
liability. So
I think
people,
so. What was the?
House members who would have a bill like there, and then Santos would try to sign on, and then other people would say, "Well, Santos likes it. I'm out of here," right? Because very few House members, Republican Democrats, could stand being around the guy, right? And so he ended up being so much of a liability to all sides that even the Republicans were willing to narrow their majority. And of course, that majority is trimmed even further because McCarthy, the former speaker, is leaving at the end of this year as well, as a bit of an FU to the party that allowed extremists to expel him as speaker.
Right. Go ahead, Manya.
I already spoke. Dapper let me spoke before that. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, the embattled former lawmaker survived previous attempts to remove him, but there was growing momentum for the effort in the wake of scathing ethics reports, which concluded that he sought to fraudulently exploit his House candidacy for personal financial profit. Santos announced that he wouldn't seek re-election after the reports were released, but refused to resign. And I think there's something to point out here specifically when it comes to how far this had to go before the Republicans started agreeing to get rid of him. He got away with a lot of shit for a long time.
I mean, he's convicted. He's convicted. This is not alleged. He's convicted of crimes and a whole bunch of other things coming forward. But you understand, for the district, Santos never had a bill, even though he's in the majority party, that made it to the House floor, let alone pass, right? And oftentimes he would sign on to a bill, and then other members would sign off, fearing that if they didn't want to be accused of going back to their constituency and saying, "I voted for a bill that Santos supported." And so he became and so people would go and say to Santos, "Please don't support my bill. I want to have a chance of it passing committee."
Yeah. There's also, one of the notes here is that currently the Democratic governor, who is the House clerk for New York, is the House clerk is expected to take the office, and the Democratic governor is scheduling a special election to replace him. So New York's going to have a special election to get that handled. And it says, expulsion is the most severe form of punishment for a House lawmaker and requires the high bar of a 2/3 of the majority vote to succeed. Santos is the first member to be expelled from the House in more than 2 decades, and the first to be ousted since the Civil War who wasn't first convicted of a felony. Interesting.
I mean, the felony conviction is, in my opinion, likely to be it's coming. There's actually already talk. There are reports that his lawyers are already in plea bargain talks with the prosecutors.
I'm not
because I mean, look, they have a pretty strong case, and I mean that's even their case is only a fraction of the things that are probably true. Like the time that he allegedly stole some puppies from the Amish.
There's so many things.
Yes, literally. Yes, because that's what you do if you're a striking schmuck.
Yeah, just go steal some puppies.
Botox fake loans. Like, what the heck? There's so many things. Is there like just a straight up list somewhere? Like some examples from the report include 1,400 a virtual skin spa in New York, $225 for City MD, $1,500 purchase on the campaign debit card in 2020 was made for Mirza Aesthetics, which was not reported, $1,400 charge to a virtual skin spa that was on the campaign debit card that was described as Botox, an unreported PayPal payment of $1,029.30 to an esthetician associated with a spa, $4,127.80 purchase at Hermes, and smaller purchases at OnlyFans, Sephora, meals, and parking. The report is typically created to show what opposition research can be dug up on a candidate runs 137 pages long.
Holy moly!
I understand that the Dapper's comments were not hyperbole. And he moved to Brazil in 2008 and was there to 2011. And he said, just recently he said that he denied having a drag queen calling the allegations artificially false and accusing the media of making outrageous claims about my life. But 2 years later saying, no, I was not a drag queen in Brazil, guys. I was young and I had fun at a festival.
Reimbursed for personal loans he didn't make. Sexual harassment allegations.
Yeah. Oh,
of course.
There we go.
Of course.
By the way, I'm not pointing out the drag thing to dog on drag performers. I'm doing it to dog on someone who lies about having been a drag performer.
Yes.
Because he's in the party that wants to ban drag shows.
Wait till was it Ronald Reagan, or was it? I think it was Reagan, not Nixon. I think it was Reagan who used to host drag shows at the White House.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I haven't heard that, but maybe
he claimed his maternal grandparents were Jewish Holocaust refugees who fled the Soviet Ukraine,
which they weren't.
And it's like well, why would you lie about this sort of thing, right? It's a matter of
because he's running in New York. He wants the Jewish vote.
And the problem, again, there's nothing wrong with being a drag queen, but what he would do is he would then rail against drag queens to try to cover up the fact that he was a drag queen. That's the...
Oh, boy.
Yeah. It's the same thing like when I point out that I have extremely good reason to think that Kent Hovind was having a gay affair with his tech guy, Steve. Oh, I don't point that out because I have a problem with him having a alleged by me and other people who I will not name. Yeah, that thing is, that he has gone on the record saying that gay people should be executed. That's why I think it's scandalous that he would do that. Because, quite frankly, I mean, if 2 guys in Alabama want to have an affair, I don't particularly care. Unless one of them has been like, yes, let's do a genocide against gay people. Then I'm like,
oh my god.
Suddenly I care a little bit. I just a bit.
Yeah. And it's not like, we have not had politicians and people in, positions of power, and, influence before who have come out, they say vociferously one thing against a community and turn out they are themselves the members of that community, and they are kind of using that as a, as a blanket, or, to hide their own, discretions that, not discretion, sorry, hide their own, stupid stuff that they have been doing in the background, So, it's not the first time.
It's one of those things where it's like, I understand that people want policies, like what we were talking about with Idaho. People want to live in a place where the policies being put forward are policies that they agree with. That's not what we're talking about with George Santos, though. George Santos is not just an extremist. He's a thief. And he's not the only Republican to be that way in recent years. Yeah. So, this is now people who are generally good, for example, let's take, when Trump was running, one of the only Republicans that was, fucking said how it was and was like, this is not the Republican Party, was Mitt fucking Romney. Yeah. And what happened to him, right? What went down with that? I think he's retired now. He was ostracized.
And now it's Christie, another piece of work, who's one of the only people who just says, F Trump.
But it's I don't personally hate Republicans, right? It's not about the Republican Party and what it ought to and what it did stand for before all this shit started. It's about what the fuck are you guys doing? This is beyond the pale of policy issues and disagreements about regular shit. It's about refusing people basic human rights, and it's about being thieves and criminals and traitors all up in your fucking party, and maybe you should do something about it. Sorry, go ahead, Landon.
No.
That was my rant.
So during his 2020 campaign, Santos enlisted his residence in Elmhurst, Queens. Outside the district that he was seeking office, you had to be a resident of the district to run in the district. He and his partner later moved to a row house in Whitestone, Queens. Owner said he moved there allegedly in July, but he's told people that it was because of a vandalism incident. The landlord said he moved out of the residence, leaving $17,000 in damages. But records show he was actually still registered there and still paying utilities there, even though he moved out. It's kind of like
he moved because of the vandalism that he did.
Oh,
he vandalized his own place too much, and so then he had to move.
Yeah.
It all checks
he
out.
continued to receive mail there and to register there as well, including a certificate of his electric victory, according to the landlord. So the certificate that you won was mailed to his residence that he had filed outside the district. It just goes on. He's claimed to have been a victim of crime, but he never reported to the police. But he then uses it to push forward. I mean, he's just. I mean, the list of stuff about being a schmuck is quite long, and the number of Republicans that essentially were tired of him would beg him not to co-sign with their bill because they just want the liability of him being on it. This is the Republican Party saying,
Sounds
yeah,
like
"Get out of here."
Ani? Yeah.
Nah, I'm done.
It's one of the.
So I do have a little quick thing.
Yeah, go ahead, Dapper. No, go.
One of the things I want to point out is before the vote, another Republican congressman came out to say that both he and his mother's credit cards had been charged to the Santos campaign in amounts that exceeded the allowable donation by private individuals, and that neither of them had authorized those charges.
Yes.
So he was this is alleged by another congressman that he was literally scamming other members of Congress and their families.
This is one of those things where it's like, this is where you get the difference between the cult mentalities that we were talking about last week, and I definitely recommend you go and watch that stream. It was very, very good and very educational. Please go watch it. Maybe buy the book. There's you don't need to support thieves because they wear the same colors as you do. Just because because a lot of the time they're voting and doing shit you don't personally agree with anyway. And we see that in poll after poll after poll after poll. You see people who are registered as Republicans not wanting policies that Republican parties are putting forward, or individuals in the Republican Party. But as a Republican, what can you do about it? Call somebody. I don't know. I'm Canadian. I don't fucking know how your shit works.
You mean like as a Republican voter or as a Republican elected official?
But it's also very curious. Like, it was also very curious in Santos' case. He was being asked to leave, because of all the, the ethics problems that were happening, the fraud and shit were happening. Okay, but he refused. Even after like so much coming out, the guy had the audacity to say, "Nuh-uh, I'm staying here. I don't care what you think about me.
I won't run for re-election." He's negotiating. Yeah. He's like, "I'm gonna do you a favor, and I will choose." As if he's gonna keep that promise, right? Like, there's we're just gonna buy that shit? Are we just gonna believe him? Why?
No.
And I think
that's where the second
no.
No.